International humanitarian law looks at the international law regulating the use of force, jus ad bellum, as well as the conduct of warfare, jus in bello. As far as the former is concerned, namely jus ad bellum, this course will look at the fundamental prohibition on making war, principally in Article 2, subparagraph 4 of the UN Charter, but then also looks at the exceptions which have really been developing apace in the last few years to that fundamental prohibition, principally the notion of self-defense, the notion of collective security, which are included within the UN Charter, but also, interestingly, at the whole question of humanitarian protection, which ever since the Kosovan War has really mushroomed into an exception of its own kind. This course covers a vast and intriguing field, all the way from treaty and customary law, right the way through to state practice and judicial decisions, and will also consider the very notion of what is and is not an international armed conflict as opposed to a local conflict. And within that mix also will be added the protection of civilian populations, the use of new weaponry, and the interplay of international human rights law for the protection of those civilian populations that are caught in the midst of an international conflict. The essential problems are to do with the fact that this entire field is increasingly a contested field. The views of NGOs vis-a-vis government bodies, of individual participants as against military lawyers, are those that are ever more at loggerheads, because essentially the very question of what may legitimately be undertaken in the form of a humanitarian protection, a intervention which is not in the first place one that can be located in the UN Charter, leaves very many more questions to be asked than are in fact answered. Students will be left with a realization that international law is a moving field, and that very often the law develops really through exceptions, which are then worked at, adopted, and effectively become the modern orthodoxy. Students will also realize that the variety of players in this field, very often many of whom are non-governmental, actually play a pivotal role in formulating the basic precepts of international humanitarian law.